take a look at this image. It shows the position of Tyrie Samson's harness moments before.
Back in 2021, the Height Drop Tower was built at Icon Park in Orlando, quickly gaining attention for being one of the tallest and most thrilling rides in the country. But just a year later, in 2022, a tragic incident changed everything, leading to the ride's permanent shutdown. On March 24, 2022, 14-year-old Tyrie Samson was on what was once known as the world's tallest freestanding drop tower. The ride lifted 30 passengers more than 400 feet into the air before plunging downward at 70 mph. But during that high-speed drop, Tyrie tragically fell from his seat, a horrifying moment that left onlooker frozen. From what's been reported, Samson stood at 6'2" and weighed around 380 pounds at the time of the incident, which was far above the ride's listed weight limit of 287 pounds. Although rides like this typically go through strict measurement protocols, it's believed that the person responsible for checking the safety restraints was new on the job. The most unsettling part, at the moment when Samson sat down, the seatbelt didn't properly secure. Instead of denying the ride, the operator allegedly used a wrench to manually adjust the harness, just enough to allow him to fit. That single decision, meant to avoid a scene or delay, turned into a fatal mistake that cost a life and shook the entire theme park industry. Due to this negligence, the employee responsible was fired on the spot, and from what we know, the ride's entire structure cost over $300 million, yet the seatbelt that failed to secure Samson properly wasn't even worth $10. Tragically, Samson didn't survive. He lost his life at the park that day, all because of a careless decision that should have never been made. Things are getting concerning. A mother named Jasmine posted a video online showing something truly unsettling happening inside her apartment. The footage, recorded on a quiet Thursday afternoon, begins with Jasmine and her daughter hurrying into their apartment, urgently. A second later, a sketchy figure appears on camera, stumbling toward the apartment. From his unsteady walk and slurred behavior, it's clear he's heavily intoxicated, most likely under the influence of alcohol.
I just called the police. Get out front of my door. This is the last time I'm gonna tell you, get out front of my door right now. The police on the way. Go!
But the most unsettling part was Jasmine didn't just capture the man on camera. If you pay close attention at this exact point, you'll notice something even more disturbing. One of the interior doors slowly creaks open on its own. But what Jasmine said next was far more distressing than anything caught on video. According to her, that door was always locked. And that room had no windows, no vents, nothing that could have caused it to move. That's when she realized maybe that intoxicated man wasn't the only one who followed them in.
I have never seen this door come open, ever. Like, you can't. But in the video, you saw the door just came open. Who opened the door? Like, look at that, like pitch black. Like, make it make sense. Like, how? How? I don't know. That don't make sense.
However, if that door hadn't been opened in years and suddenly swang open on its own, it just didn't make any sense. She reviewed the footage multiple times just to convince herself the door didn't really move, but every time she watched it, she became more and more disturbed. Now, the whole situation already felt off, but what happened next was by far the most unnerving part. Jasmine contacted property management and insisted that someone come over to open that door. When they finally did, what they discovered inside was horrifying.
She sent somebody up to come take a look, so I'm gonna let him do what he do, and I'm gonna stay back here.
Like
You say the light works? Y'all, he said the light works. Oh, Lord. What the what is that? These other kids. Y'all. What the hell is going on? Y'all see all these little kids? She had put kids' shoes up in there. What the? So how did? So hold on, because no, this other day the door came open when I was.
She saw what looked like piles of children's shoes. What made it even more disturbing was that some of those shoes had reportedly gone missing from the apartment complex over the past few months. But the moment that truly shattered her was when, upon reviewing the footage again, Jasmine noticed one of the shoes belonged to her own daughter. From that point on, the video took a much darker turn.
So I'm looking back at this video that I took with the property manager guy, right? And I noticed something in them pile of shoes. Those frozen Elsa boots, whatever you want to call it, those boots are my daughter's. Like, I'm gonna show y'all a picture that me and my daughter took, like, I want to say like 2 months ago. Yo, this is crazy because I really thought she just lost them at school. Those shoes belong to my daughter.
After showing the footage to property management, even they were left speechless. They confirmed the room hadn't been accessed or used for years, and there were no records of anyone being authorized to enter it. That made only one thing clear to Jasmine. Someone had been collecting those shoes, and for reasons no one could explain.
Stealing little kids' shoes around here. I've talked to at least 2 or 3 different people in this building who have said that their children been missing shoes. So I'm thinking that somebody has access to that room, and they're going around stealing shoes and then taking them and putting them in there. They're just putting shoes in the room. Like, it just none of this makes sense to me right now. None of it.
Things were getting increasingly concerning, so Jasmine came up with a bold idea. She placed a pair of boots right outside that mysterious door and set up a security camera to monitor the area overnight. But what she ended up capturing was far more horrifying than she ever expected. One of the boots bounced on its own, even though there was no sign of anyone near it. Apparently, her next-door neighbor can be seen in the footage, and later, Jasmine explained that the neighbor had come out to check on the sound of a baby crying that she heard from outside her door. But the moment she saw the boot move on its own, she was terrified and immediately ran back into her room. From this point on, there hasn't really been any kind of update about this whole situation. A lot of people online claim what happened might have been paranormal, while others are quick to brush it off as just another fake video made for attention. However, there is no official source has ever confirmed anything that makes it hoax. Personally, I think this could be real. Clifford Hoy. Clifford Hoy is known to be one of the most obscure and disturbing dreams a person could ever have, where it sits at the bottom of the dream iceberg. Now, if you're not familiar with these internet icebergs, they're basically rankings of topics, starting off weird at the top, but gets progressively terrifying and unexplainable as deeper you go. But to understand why it's so terrifying, we need to go back to where it all started. On the morning of December 5th, 1999, a truck driver was making his usual run along Maple Road in Maryland. Everything seemed normal until he noticed something up ahead. Disturbingly, he saw what looked like a body lying in the middle of the road. Panicked, the driver immediately pulled over and dialed 911, which, after a couple of minutes, the authorities finally arrive at the location, only to discover him in a horrifying condition. Lying on the cold pavement was a man barely alive, his body mangled from what looked like a brutal car accident. That man was later identified as 33-year-old Clifford Hoy. At this point, you're probably wondering, how does this connect to the dream iceberg? But stay with me. Just a few days later, Clifford suddenly woke up from his coma screaming. Nurses rushed in, stunned not just by the fact that he was awake, but by how violently he was screaming at something no one else could see. They had no choice but to hold him down and sedate him. However, what Clifford said after regaining some sense left everyone shaken. According to him, during the coma, he claimed he had been in hell, said he was tortured in ways that couldn't even be explained. A place filled with fire, the stench of sulfur, and constant cries of pain. But that's not all. Even after waking up, Clifford kept pointing at the walls, crying that arms were reaching out for him. Several weeks later, Clifford had seemingly recovered. The injuries were healing, the delirium had passed, and the doctors were satisfied enough to send him home. For a moment, it felt like the worst was behind him, but that feeling didn't last long. Just a week after returning to his apartment, the landlord who lived in the same building called the police. It was the middle of the night, and he was complaining about loud, bizarre music blasting from Clifford's unit. While waiting for officers to arrive, the landlord, growing irritated, knocked several times but got no response. He finally used his spare key and stepped inside. However, what he saw would stay with him forever. Clifford was lying on the floor, completely naked, his body pale. In one arm, he was clutching a massive block of ice, and this, the photo of him. When the police questioned Clifford, his response chilled them more than the ice he clung to. He claimed that demons from hell were still trying to drag him back. He said his body would burn unbearably unless he played loud music to keep them at bay. The ice? That was the only thing that helped him sleep. He would only leave his apartment briefly to buy more blocks of ice and just enough food to survive. Doctors, of course, had a different explanation. They attributed Clifford's condition to severe brain trauma from the car accident. Hallucinations, paranoia, delusional behavior, it was all clinical, but those who've heard the full story don't believe it's that simple. Today, Clifford Hoy lives in a mental rehabilitation facility in Maryland, but even now, staff report that he wakes up screaming in the middle of the night, claiming they've come back for him. And sometimes, when the screams stop too suddenly, you can still hear the music playing from his room, and that is what they now call the most disturbing dream. A nightmare buried at the bottom of the internet's dream iceberg, one that left a man broken, screaming, and afraid to sleep again. On the morning of July 18, 2022, a lone kayaker was out fishing in a quiet creek in South Arlington. However, what was supposed to be just another peaceful day quickly turns into something that would haunt him for the rest of his life.
Okay, now you see me, I turned around, I'm going a different route. But if you look to the left of the screen, just look at the left of the screen. Did you see it? You see my head? I am fucked up right now in the head. Do you hear me? I'm fucked up. I had to whip out my camera because nobody would believe.
If you pay close attention at this point, you'll catch something truly unsettling. What appears to be a human head emerging from the water. Immediately, the man paddled to shore and called 911. By 10:30 a.m., officers from the Arlington Police Department and firefighters had arrived at Village Creek, right off Interstate 20, between Bowman Springs Road and Southeast Loop 820. What they pulled from the water was a man's body. However, there were no obvious signs on the body or in surrounding areas to explain the death. The Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office took custody of the body, hoping to figure out who he was and how he died. But from that day forward, nothing. No updates, no follow-up reports, no missing person linked to him. It's as if he just appeared and vanished in the same breath. And that's why this case still lingers, because sometimes the scariest part isn't what we find, it's what we never get to know.
Go. Oh my goodness.